If it is objected that God in vain and without ground utters this complaint, since it was in his power to bend the stiff necks of the people, and that, when he was not pleased to do this, he had no reason to compare himself to a man deeply grieved, I answer that he very properly makes use of this style of speaking on our account, that we may seek for the procuring cause of our misery nowhere but in ourselves. We must here beware of mingling together things which are totally different, as widely different from each other, as heaven is distant from the earth. God, in coming down to us by his word, and addressing his invitations to all men without exception, disappoints nobody. All who sincerely come to him are received, and find from actual experience that they were not called in vain. At the same time, we are to trace to the fountain of the secret electing purpose of God this difference, that the word enters into the heart of some, while others only hear the sound of it. And yet there is no inconsistency in his complaining, as it were, with tears of our folly when we do not obey him. In the invitations which he addresses to us by the external word, he shows himself to be a father, and why may he not also be understood as still representing himself under the image of a father in using this form of complaint? In Ezekiel 18:32, he declares with the strictest regard to truth, quote, I have no pleasure in the death of him that dieth, unquote. Provided in the interpretation of the passage, we candidly and dispassionately take into view the whole scope of it. God has no pleasure in the death of a sinner. How? Because he would have all men turned to himself. But it is absolutely evident that men, by their own free will, cannot turn to God, until he first change their stony hearts into hearts of flesh. Yea, this renovation, as Augustine judiciously observes, is a work surpassing that of the creation itself. Now what hinders God from bending and framing the hearts of all men equally in submission to him? Here modesty and sobriety must be observed, that instead of presuming to intrude into his incomprehensible decrees, we may rest contented with the revelation which he has made of his will in his word. There is the justest ground for saying that he wills the salvation of those to whom that language is addressed. Isaiah 21:12, quote, Come unto me, and be ye converted, unquote.